Welcome everyone. I know many of the folks here. It's great to see your faces and um, reconnect visually, at least. For those I don't know, though, my name is Chris Kerr. I'm the executive director of the Ignatian Solidarity Network, and on behalf of our staff, we're grateful to have you here today, late, at least on the East Coast, in the afternoon on a Friday. So thanks for being with us. We know that you're many of you are experiencing, well, probably everybody is experiencing something new in terms of the way your school year is starting. For some of you, it's very different, maybe from what you've experienced in previous falls. But we just want to say how grateful we are that you're here in the space with us today, and seeking to really think and kind of chat with colleagues about how to engage in the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice. Most of the folks here today are in the context of higher ed. I know we held a call for secondary educators the other day. There might even be a secondary educator or two that snuck in here this afternoon who missed that one. And we found it really enriching to one, share what's happening with the teach-in, the unique way we have to engage that, while it has its challenges, also provides many graces and opportunities. And we were also really heartened by the energy of secondary educators and small groups and things like that we saw taking place as they discussed different ways to engage with the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice. I think most of you are familiar with the teach-in. You've experienced it before. For those for whom this will be maybe your first time thinking about how to engage your campus, or maybe this is the first time you've had to figure out how to engage your campus in the teach-in. We're excited for your creativity and your energy in that. And I'm going to turn things over to Aaron Brown, our program director, who's going to kind of lead you through some of the orientation into what the platform of the teach-in and kind of the format of the teach-in will look like for higher education predominantly. And I know Aaron will leave some time for questions and things like that. So, and looking forward to a robust discussion and things like that. So Aaron, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, folks. Happy to be here with you today. Thanks to echo Chris for tuning in on a Friday afternoon. These calls largely came from all of you within the network, asking questions about what the teach-in will look like this year, and to know how other people throughout the network are going to be engaging with it, especially with their students. So my intention today is first to provide you sort of an overview of the structure of the teach-in this year. Second, I will give you a little bit of a demo of the platform we're using, and my colleague Lena Chapin will do that as well, help me out with that. From there, I intend to answer questions sort of as we go through things that you all voiced or wrote, I suppose, in your registration form. But please feel free to put questions once again, or new questions that come up in the chat. I do hope to be able to address those after I walk through the platform a little bit. Following that, I want to give you all time to break out into small groups and to just be able to have conversations with those doing similar work, and to exchange ideas or plans that you all may have or may be working on for ways that you hope to engage your students. And from there, I may have time for a few additional questions. I have the ability to hang on at the end of the call, and I'm happy to follow up with any of you who may have questions later on. So I am going to drop into the chat, if I can find the link quickly, the schedule for the teach-in. When we decided to go virtual, we recognized that we had an opportunity to shift the dates of the teach-in, which is something we did choose to do after the announcement from many universities to shift the semester. So the original dates for the teach-in would have been finals weekend, I should say, for a number of college students across the country. So with that, we decided to shift our dates to October, which is pretty unprecedented for us, especially to be ahead of a presidential election. But in conversation with both educators in secondary and in higher ed, I came to find that those in secondary said it's going to be really hard for us to engage our students over the weekend, and the opposite for those of you in higher ed, saying the best time for us to be able to engage our students in something like this is on the weekend. So with that, we've extended our programming. As you may have seen, the teaching will start on the 19th of October, which is a Monday, and run through the 26th, which is also a Monday. Those weekdays are primarily going to encompass 2 tracks. One is a high school track that many high school educators will be using in either an extracurricular or in a classroom setting. The second is a professional development track, which will engage many of you, Ignatian educators throughout the network. And then the weekend will follow a very similar model and similar content to a typical in-person teach-in. We have 4 keynotes this year, 3 different time slots for large-scale breakout sessions, as well as small-scale breakout sessions as well. You will see that if you have the schedule open in front of you, the first time this appears is at 2 p.m. on Saturday, October 24th. We have a time that's called Connection, Reflection, and Restoration. And this time we sort of saw as a choose your own adventure sort of time, knowing that we have people joining the teach-in in a number of different ways. We have people who will be tuning in perhaps on their own, at home from a computer, maybe not associated with a delegation. And we also have students who are maybe involved with a larger delegation who will be in contact with fellow students or perhaps educators throughout the day. So that time is supposed to be, you know, a time for people to either take a break from the screen if they want to. Perhaps they want to continue a conversation that was started in a session. There are roundtable discussions happening in that time. There are also reflection opportunities, recognizing, especially for those who are joining the teach-in without a delegation, that the reflection piece is really important, and it can be different and more challenging to navigate on your own. So to be able to do that, and of course, community is such a highlight, and the ability to connect with the community is such a highlight of the teach-in. So to be able to create spaces where people are able to connect in real time. That time is also intended for if you do have a delegation and you want to have your own reflection space as a delegation, that time is sort of programmed in for you to be able to step away from the live content of the teach-in to be able to do that. So those times appear twice on Saturday and 1 additional time on Sunday. You'll see we kept the primary prayer elements of the teach-in. We will still have the prayer for the Jesuit martyrs on Saturday evening, as well as a mass that will close the teach-in on Sunday evening. Monday is a little bit different this year. We typically, as you know, are able to lobby on Capitol Hill on Monday for a variety of reasons, not being in DC, but more so because of the fact that we're 2 weeks ahead of an election and moving into a lame duck session. Advocacy Day will look a little bit different this year. We will continue to have the public action or public witness, which will take place via a virtual rally. And in that rally, we'll be connecting to our existing Voting is an Act of Love campaign. And we'll focus on stories in that. So what stories are people taking to the ballot box of people in our country and in our network who we have the ability to keep in mind as we exercise our ability to vote. And also for those, we recognize that we have individuals in our network due to age, migration status, etc., who don't have the ability to vote, to encourage everyone who does have the ability to do so. So a Get Out the Vote rally in some sense as well. With that, we will have our advocacy push in March as part of the Ignatian Family Advocacy Month, which we have hosted in the past, specifically in election years. So while it won't happen on Monday the 26th, we will still have that push for advocacy from those who have attended the teach-in as well as the broader Ignatian network. For now, I am going to jump into the demo of the platform. Does anyone have any immediate questions sort of structure or schedule before I do that? Okay, excellent. I had a question about how large a delegation can be. Because of the virtual format, we don't have the same restrictions and capacity that we do in the physical space, so we do not have caps this year. Sorry, I'm struggling with my screen share. Give me just a second. Okay, so the program I'm showing you isn't actually our teach-in program built out. As you can see, it's the Migration Justice Summit, which we had the ability to run in July this year for college students. Perhaps some of you had students attend. And it was a really wonderful opportunity for us to sort of pilot this platform and to get feedback from college students as they were navigating it. So the way this will work is it can be accessed on a web page from a computer, and it works very well also on the mobile app. So we have an ISN app that all of this can be accessed from as well. Each individual will need to be registered, and they will be given their own account. And with that, they have the ability to create their own profile. So you can see here I'm signed in as Ignatian Solidarity Network. I will take you to the attendee list. And I'm going to use Chris's profile as an example, as it's pretty well built out. So as you can see, Chris has filled out his profile details, which we'll request from you and from your students to be able to help you in that process. These skills here, this platform was really chosen because of the networking features that it offers. Again, that was one of the things in conversation with people as we talked about having a virtual teach-in, like what are the elements that need to remain, what makes the teach-in, and the ability to interact with those across the country is a highlight, and is something that we really prioritized being able to keep despite being in a new context, new setting. So these skills work within the program to connect people on their commonalities, to suggest people that you should connect or network with. You have the ability, again, to submit a photo, your bio, connect any social media pages that you want to share. These contact details, you can put them on your profile. The only reason they're visible to me is because Chris and I are connected, our profiles are connected. If you haven't accepted essentially like a friend request on Facebook, these personal details won't be shown, so they're not publicly available. You can see here that Chris is attached to a few of our exhibitors, ISN and our voting campaign. And then he was a speaker for this program as well, so you can see the sessions that he was speaking in. So it gives you the ability, again, to connect to different exhibitors in ways, as well as if you attend a session and want to connect with the speaker, it can allow you to connect with their profile as well. You can see here we have the ability to one-to-one chat. If I open this, I also have the ability to video call Chris. And those video calls can be extended to group calls of up to 4 individuals. So those are some of the networking features. I'll jump back here and show you. So those networking features that I pointed to that connect people, there's an example of the individuals that are suggested to connect with. Again, it looks very similar for speakers, that they have their own profiles here. I'm going to take you to the schedule portion. And as you can see, it's listed day by day, the different sessions that are available. Here too, you can see the different tracks that they might be associated with. In this program, we had a mix of on-demand and live stream programming, so we marked them in that way. Most of the weekend programming, for the teaching will all be synchronous, so you won't look as much for the on-demand. The professional development sessions will be on-demand in the week prior, but all of that weekend programming is synchronous. That said, here, for example, is a previously live streamed session. Give it a minute to load. You'll see that the video is still accessible. So one of the benefits of this platform is all of the content will remain available to you until June 1st of 2021. So you have the ability to go back and watch something again, or perhaps you weren't available at the time of a specific session that you wanted to watch, or with multiple breakouts at a time, you can only attend one. So you have the ability to go back and revisit things. You'll see here as well that there are live chats as part of these live streams. There's an ability to pose questions. People can vote questions up so that the most popular question is the first one that the speaker will see and respond to. There's also an opportunity for speakers to create polls for people watching to create a little more engagement in that way as well. Here you can see you have the ability to register for the session. And I'll show you here as well. This would allow you to add it to your event. As you can see here, which allows you to curate essentially your own schedule. If you're using the mobile app and enable notifications, you can get pop-ups to remind you, I think it's 10 minutes before a specific session is beginning, so that you can remember to tune into it. Another way to connect with people is through the group chat feature. Again, a space to continue a conversation that may have started from a session. We had the ability at this program for students to suggest a discussion topic. We have the ability, ISN staff, to continue to add different group chat topics throughout the teach-in. So taking suggestions, again, really reacting to the interactions of people who are attending or viewing sessions is something we have the ability to do to really foster, you know, the continued connection throughout the weekend. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting. Oh, one thing worth mentioning, I've spoken to the ability to connect one-to-one, both in chat and in video calls. One thing we are doing, and you'll see this, for those of you who are registered, you'll get information next week about how to submit your delegate information to me so that each of them can have an account set up. One of the things that I will request on that form is to know whether or not the student is a minor. For those who are minors, they'll be loaded into our system differently and will have restrictions. They won't have the ability to chat with individuals one-to-one or to make those video calls. They will still be able to participate in those more public group chats or in the comments, but for safety reasons, we've decided to disable the other features. I'm going to hand it over to Lena, my colleague at this moment, who is going to talk us through the exhibitor portion of our platform.
All right, thank you, Erin. Great, I'm Lena. Everybody who doesn't know me, all of you who do know me, hey, it's good to see you. I'm screen sharing as well. Obviously, this is the same program, but now you get to see my profile. So, exhibiting this year, we don't have the hallway where everyone's getting trampled and rubbing elbows and everything because, you know, there's a pandemic, but we still really wanted you to be able to connect and the students to be able to connect with the awesome organizations who come to the teach-in every year. And so it looks a little bit different, but there's still essentially a hallway, so you can access it either here through exhibitors or up at the top. And these will obviously, there'll be a lot more for the teach-in, but you can bookmark organizations. You can go to their profiles or their exhibiting booth and reach out much in the same way as you would with someone on the platform. So you can send a message to that specific organization. Again, you can bookmark them as a place to go back, an important place to listen to. You can create meetings with them that's 1 to 4 people. So say as a school, you want to you found a new organization at the teach-in this year that you want to connect with outside of the teach-in. Say you want to invite someone from JRS or someone from another organization to address your students specifically in the classroom, virtually, whatever. You can set up a meeting here and kind of talk to them about that or really about anything. There's links to social media, to contacts. People will be able to list products for sale as well as any internship, job opportunities, etc. On these platforms or on this profile, you'll get to see the sessions that they're participating in. If anyone from an organization is presenting at a breakout session or a keynote with the teach-in and they're linked to their organization, it'll be listed here, and you can add it, individuals can add it to their schedule in the same way that Erin just showed you. Also, what's really cool is any documents that people have, they can load them up here. So be sure to check out ISN's profile so that you can download all of our handy dandy advocacy documents, etc., etc. This is also a really great place to see who's, oops, that's going to take you into the back end. Don't pay attention to that, everybody. Switch to the event really quickly. Sorry. having all these added abilities sometimes backfires in the middle of Zoom calls. Anyway, when you go to the organization, you can scroll down and see who's involved in that organization. So maybe you see that someone from your university and a recent alum is working at this organization now. You can specifically connect with them and say, hey, Jose, hey, cool alum, come chat with my students tonight via Zoom call or something like that. And we will have, there's a lot of really cool projects that different exhibitors are putting forth as ways to help you engage your students throughout the year in virtual service, since service looks a lot different. And so we will create kind of like a little list of people who have opportunities like that, who would be interested in connecting with you outside or within the teach-in, but outside of their exhibit. So. Sure. Turning it back over to you, Erin. You're muted, kid.
Excellent. I'm back. I'm happy to take any questions that you all have at the moment. I also will give a plug. You all are connected to many students who are doing incredible work for justice, and yourselves and your colleagues. Please consider applying to speak at the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice, or genuinely encourage your students to do so. We'd be really happy to have them. I'll drop a link to that in the chat too, to those opportunities. Any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm Anthony from Gonzaga University. I'm wondering if there's any suggestions for how we can prep our students this year, if it's different than in normal years, right? And so I think we all have a bunch of different ways that we do that and different activities, but like, are there any suggestions from you all to like prep our students for this kind of format, for what we're doing this time around? And then also, you know, given that advocacy is going to be kind of pushed back to March in that formal way, yeah, what suggestions do you have for us as, you know, campus facilitators to make that happen?
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent question. I'll start with the most logistical, is that the app itself will open, or the platform will become accessible on September 28th to all attendees. So assuming that I have delegation lists from each of you, I'll need, within 72 working business hours, I will be able to have access for you and your students to the platform. So I would recommend that, to allow them a little bit of time to just orient the way that that platform will work, to interact with it. Again, they have the ability to sort of curate their schedule, to perhaps go through the different descriptions of the sessions and select what they might want to attend. In that way, well, and in person too, right? The teaching can be so personalized depending on which of the sessions you choose to attend. So that's one suggestion. Another, in response to the advocacy piece, you're right that the preparation will look very different this year. And one of the things that we're really trying to do with our Ignatian Family Advocacy Month is really to connect our current Voting is an Act of Love campaign for those who have the ability to vote to do so, and for those who have the ability and, you know, to send text messages or to reach out to their loved ones to make sure that they're voting and have a plan and the tools that they need to do so. So really creating that connection from voting, making sure we're becoming educated on the issues, which is something that we are seeking to do and every year seek to do at the Teach-In through the content, to really connect that to IFAM, to really move into action still. We will be providing broad policy overviews of our issue areas. In typical years, we're able to provide you all with very specific asks that we're going to use on the Advocacy Day. Again, that will look different, but we do intend to continue to educate more broadly on those issues. And some of that, if you were wanting to engage with it sooner, a lot of that exists now within, I keep pointing you to our Voting is an Act of Love campaign, but those were published, I think, maybe last week for environmental justice, domestic poverty, migration justice, and racial justice, I believe. I'm gonna look towards the chat. Was that helpful, Anthony?
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
In terms of submitting delegation tickets on a rolling basis, yes, you can do so. It's going to be easier and more seamless if you're able to submit multiple at a time. The one thing that we won't be able to do that we have been able to do in the past is swap students. So as soon as I have a student name and email address added into SwapCard, their account exists. So we're not able to then go back and swap that out for another student. You would be able to add an additional student, but because that account already exists, we won't be able to make swaps out in that way. So what that could look like is, you know, making sure you're in close contact with me to send maybe your first 10 students, and then to know if you needed to be in contact at a later date with an additional 10. I would ask that you reach out to me about that, just so I'm aware of your process. Yes. To Kathy's question, you can register today if you want. If you know you want 40 tickets, you can buy those tickets today and submit the names to me later on in September. I'm happy to continue taking questions if you want to send them in the chat, or, sorry, I got one more question I'm going to respond to, Isabel. Yes, you will need to buy your tickets first, go through the group registration process form, which we can add to the chat too on our page. And when those tickets have been purchased, I'll be in touch with you regarding the process for making sure that I have the individual information of each of your students. And again, you'll be able to add additional students, so that's going to be much easier for us. We don't have the same ability that we do in typical years to reduce your delegation. But if you find that you want to add more students, you can reach out to me and I can work with you to make that happen. Again, I'm happy to continue taking questions. You can send them to me in the chat. You can, when we regather, you can bring up additional questions. But for now, I'm going to send you into small groups. There are a few guiding questions, but take the conversation how you want to. It's essentially intended to be a space for you to be able to share with colleagues your ideas, your plans, maybe challenges as you think about IFTJ in this new format. I don't have a lot of luck with Zoom breakout rooms, but my fingers are crossed. Chloe, ISN's intern, has been doing great work in this call to help me manage, so hopefully it works out this time. My intention is to pair you based on the estimated size of your delegation. So fingers crossed that works. Otherwise, we'll get you into small group and you'll find great people to chat with. The one thing that I am hoping is that all secondary individuals, educators on the call are in a separate room, and I'll join you and fill you in a little bit on the high school track. So if you get put in a wrong room, return to the main meeting room and we'll make sure you're reassigned. Same if you find that maybe you're planning to bring 10 students and you're in a group with a bunch of people planning to bring 100, if it doesn't feel super relevant to your situation, feel free to return to the main room and we'll reassign you. Okay, Chloe, whenever you're ready, you can open the breakout rooms. How were your conversations? Helpful? Excellent. Did you all walk away with additional questions that I can help to address? Feel free to jump in, unmute, or put them in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with.
A couple of us, Aaron, discussed, because we're concerned about Zoom fatigue, and a couple of us do have students on campus and may still do so in October. Will this technology work if we try to project some of the larger sessions on screen and do like a watch party sort of format with people physically distanced, but at least in the same room? We think we'd get more excitement around that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable in wanting to bring people together. Again, I will echo that our intention is to have each person have the ability to access it on their own. So, you know, maybe they're watching it on a larger screen, but if they have the ability to interact on their phone through the chat features to pose questions to speakers, etc. But because it does have the ability to be used on a desktop, there are creative ways that you could approach a watch party.
Thanks.
Aaron, I'm just curious, we were kind of talking about if the platform has some instructional videos that we could share with delegates as they kind of go through and see what that looks like, and is so that they can kind of do that as well on their own if they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that we will be creating, our staff, to share with attendees, knowing that that is an important element, making sure that navigating the platform isn't an inhibitor to actually interacting with the content. Any other questions at the moment? Okay. Well, again, thank you all for being here on your Friday afternoon. If things come up, feel free to reach out to me. I can put my email in the chat. Sorry, spelling Ignatian Solidarity while talking at the same time is talent. But yes, feel free to reach out to me in the coming days or weeks if questions come up. But we're really excited to be able to gather with you in October, even though it will look different than it typically does. But to be able to have that connection in the year, we're really looking forward to. So take care, have a good weekend.